We're here with another session of Power to Truth, and I have Mr. Truth here, Jesse Eisinger from ProPublica. We go back like 15 years or so, and Jesse's been a lot of help, and somebody who's come to Stanford before when he was writing his book, and so thrilled to have him now when news about the media comes fast and furious. So welcome, Jesse.
Thank you. You've been, as I said on the back of your book, indispensable for my understanding of the markets and the world. So thank you for having me.
So in my book that explained things, Jesse's indispensable quote is at the very top of the new edition, where he said, okay, this book will explain to you what these words mean about Brown Vitter. It was a law, proposed law that never got discussed, that would do what we proposed. But anyway, we were trying to explain the truth about some issues that seem complicated to people. What you do is investigative media and seeking truth to expose facts about, what you said in class. What are the facts? That's something somebody doesn't want you to write about.
Yes.
So speak to the work of ProPublica a little bit.
Sure. We do investigative reporting, accountability reporting. I often define it as something that someone somewhere doesn't want you to know and doesn't want you to publish. And we're doing it in the public interest. So we think that something is broken, isn't working. So we ask simple questions. Why? Who's responsible? We don't offer policies. We're not a political or policy shop. So we just try to write about problems in society and hold the powerful accountable. And the more powerful, the more responsibility they have, and the more important a subject they are. And so we look for the most powerful entities that we can write about and focus on them.
And that's the thing, is that power and truth interact in these kind of crazy way these days, where people with power don't want truth.
Well, the world has changed in the time that I've been at ProPublica, which is about 15 years, and the time that I've been a journalist, which is 30 years. And truth is losing its power. And mechanisms of shame and accountability are working less and less. Now, it's always been the case that power could stay powerful and do bad things, and even sometimes hide it. But even sometimes when they were exposed, they could fend off the worst consequences. But we have never been in a period now where the utter shamelessness of powerful people is so great that it can really overwhelm facts, and that they have a power base that doesn't absorb facts or rejects facts in such a way that they never have to really feel like they have to be accountable to the truth.
This is really the hugest challenge, is when people don't even care about truth.
Right. I have started to say that truth is a luxury good. And now it's a luxury good that is also an acquired taste. So you have to seek it out. It costs money. It costs time to seek out the truth. And you really have to want truth. And lots of people don't want it. And so, if you have never acquired the taste for it, then you don't need to seek it out. And it's expensive.
So you just live in
so
ignorance.
You live without it. And if you live in a closed world where everything that you have rejects truth and provides answers for you, whether it's Joe Rogan's podcast or Fox News, then you don't have to really ever confront anything that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah. So it's kind of you escape. It's a form of escaping the truth.
Yeah, and I would say the right doesn't have a monopoly on rejection of truth, but the problem really is much greater on the right now and with the Trump administration.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I'm an academic, and you were saying that, you know, for a good person in your position, you need to want to know answers. You need to be curious. You want to be the first to tell a story, and it's a little bit similar in academia. We want to be, you know, the first to publish something that we are the first to understand or write about. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, academics and truth, or academics and investigative media seeking truth or holding power to account. What do you view as the role of academics, what they can do, what they are doing, how much or little they are doing?
Yeah, well, you know, we sort of think that academics are both extraordinarily helpful for what we do and a force for evil or a force for damage in American society. And so when they are a force for rotten things, we try to expose it. And I think it's gotten more rotten over time. Yeah, because I think that money has infused academia, and the promise of riches is so great, and the dependence on the private sector is so much greater than it was, you know, even 20 years ago for research data, for consulting, for personal riches, for academic success,
startups.
And so, you know, that has been a corrupting influence. And it's harder and harder now to sift through academic research to find things that are really true, and unbiased. Now, of course, we are highly dependent on academic experts, and there are enormous numbers of intellectually honest, extraordinarily erudite, learned people. For our tax series, we hired academics, Greg Polsky, an economist or sort of an accountant, lawyer, who is just an expert in taxation, and he helped us with understanding what we were seeing just as you were, indispensable way. But my colleague Justin Elliott and I uncovered all sorts of questionable conflicts of interest among antitrust economists, among industrial organization economists. And what had happened was, you know, the story of antitrust is that it was something that was controlled by the lawyers and then taken over by the economists. And then when it was taken over by the economists, then what happened was it was undermined by corporations. And the corporations undermined the economists and subverted the economic analysis, and suborned it because the money became so great. And so these academics became consultants for corporations, and they hung out their shingle at the University of Chicago or Berkeley or some prestigious institution, but they really were working at these consulting firms for corporations. And it really corrupted the entire field.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are other academic fields in which, you know, there are other issues. And we know that the sugar industry corrupted, you know, food research about nutrition. We know that all kinds of things happen on the, you know, the tech front as well right now. So yeah, so I think that it's important for academics to, you know, be called out when they have a conflict of interest. And, you know, Luigi Zingales and I have been outspoken on some of the
you guys have
and
done
some
great
of the
work.
stuff. Both, you know, I mean, he's an empiricist, I'm a theorist, but I was expose bad models that affect policy, and that is really dishonest of academics when they do that. Okay, let's go back. Let's go a little bit to some of the current events that are as we speak right now in early March 2025 are filling the news. There are issues about, you know, who can access White House events. There are issues about scope of, you know, of opinion pages in the Washington Post and all of that. Where do you think we are today? And then there's the issue, we'll ask separately about SLAPP lawsuit, this strategic lawsuit against public participation.
Well, we're in a terrible crisis moment right now. And this has been building for mainstream journalism for decades because of the advent of the internet that has eroded the business model and made these institutions much more fragile and vulnerable to attack.
Yeah.
And now you have an administration that is openly hostile to
enemy of the state.
Yes, Trump has echoed what Mussolini and other authoritarians have said in the past about the press as the enemy of the state, and has pitted his voters against the press and convinced them that whatever they say is untrue. And so that they can reject it out of hand. And so now what we see is, a form of state media coming into the White House and mainstream news organizations with professional standards like the AP being banished, and the AP is being banished for this, ludicrous thing where they're, it's all sort of farcical, but very serious at the same time. That the fact that they won't call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America is so petty and so ridiculous, but you have to really take it seriously because the implications are so serious. And so dire for the First Amendment. So we've got an administration that is profoundly hostile, but it will probably get worse. Now, there were these lawsuits against news organizations based on absolutely ridiculous things like that 60 Minutes did an interview with Kamala Harris and edited it, but they didn't edit it in any misleading fashion. And, these companies or these media outlets are owned by large corporations that have other interests and other vulnerabilities, and they want to have their mergers go through, and they don't want to be challenged by government regulators. And so they bend the knee. And you see this with the Washington Post, with Jeff Bezos' absolutely shameful decision to pull the editorial endorsing Kamala Harris within weeks of the election. Now, if you had made a considered decision a year and a half ago that you want to not endorse a candidate anymore because endorsements are not meaningful anymore, that's a completely legitimate thing for an owner to do. An owner can make that decision. And there's an argument to be had that endorsements from a newspaper are kind of a silly, antiquated exercise anyway. So I would be fine with that, but this is not what that decision was. That decision was a capitulation to the possibility that Trump was going to win and
take it on.
Yeah, and so it was a cowardly act. And now we've seen further cowardly acts from Bezos, and maybe we're actually seeing Bezos kind of either his politics are transforming and he wants to have a kind of free markets, free people editorial page where he pushed out the editor, very respected editor, David Shipley, serious guy. And Shipley was not a lunatic, lefty, woke, DEI. He was running I would say probably center-right editorial page, or certainly centrist, ecumenical, interested in multiple sides of the issue. They have pro-Trump columnists there. So what Bezos is doing is signaling to the Trump administration that they are not interested in challenging him on a personal level, because it's a very personalist administration, and they don't want his other businesses to suffer. It's obvious, and it's we've got these oligarchs in American life, and they're cowards.
And how about the issue of truth online and moderation, both at X, Twitter, and Facebook?
Right. Well, it no longer exists, moderation. So under the guise of defending the First Amendment, These are the same guys, of course, who are excising any mentions of gender. They have lots of words.
And any criticism of Elon Musk.
And criticism of Elon Musk, yes. But under the guise of the First Amendment and under the cloak of it, they have allowed no moderation. And so so they're open Nazis now. And I use that word advisedly. That's literally what they are. Many of them followed by the president and the vice president of the United States, J.D. Vance. So this is what we have now with our social media platforms. And you can see that true information is not promoted and doesn't have the kind of algorithmic backing that false information does. And frankly, I despair. I feel like what ProPublica does is we make these elaborate, illuminated manuscripts in dead languages, and we present them to a world that wants
little wrong tweet.
Yeah, exactly. A little
conspiracy
tweet.
theories.
They want bonbons. They want Snickers bars, and so I don't really understand what our role is exactly anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the question is whether there would be a revival somehow of what it is that we would do. About 8 years ago, so when I got interested in sort of the internet and what's going on with the various things that are done on the internet, both commerce and media, there was a discussion about some kind of transparency for these organizations, for Facebook, say, at the time. So this was the days of Cambridge Analytica, sort of the first techlash. And then the question was, will we know what an algorithm does that curates, the news feed or something like that? Or do we need something out of them that is equivalent to, and you can do this by law without violating First Amendment, that would tell us what people actually see, so that at least, we can look in the mirror to see what is being promoted and what people actually consume as media, sort of like most liked or most followed kind of articles, like the media was doing, back in the days, or maybe still does. I don't know if they do that anymore. But it's like, how do we ever get our arms around this barrage of speech?
Yeah, this is not my specialty, and I don't understand it, and I feel very overwhelmed and afraid for the future of the profession, because what I see is the inability for facts to
emerge,
and win out in this, and that it's very easy now to reject facts and act in a purely shameless way, and just to simply demonize the outlet that's providing.
Right, so it's an ad hominem kind of thing.
Yeah, so you don't
attack the
messenger.
Content, you attack.
And if you can reject ProPublica out of hand as a corrupt outlet, or the New York Times as some kind of
whatever they say is
right, then it's just evidence that if they've produced it, then it isn't true. And so now what I do is I feel like we're, kind of producing for an elite audience of people who care, but they don't necessarily have power to.
That's the issue. The issue is really that power to truth, which is what this is all about here.
Right.
And what is it that we do?
It's the fundamental question.
To empower the truth. I suppose the only thing we can do is persevere somehow. As long as, some people want to hear and hope that, that some part of reality hits people in the face, the tariffs will lead to, in other words, they'll get disillusioned somehow and see that the truth matters.
Yeah, I mean, there was a hopeful instance of this in the first Trump administration, where There was a child separation policy at the
Right.
border, family separation policy at the border. And we published a recording of a child being separated from his mother, and the child was crying. And it was an extraordinarily explosive story, and it went viral. And that is one of the key moments where the Trump administration heard that and the reaction was so great that they felt like they had to change the policy. And so there may be ways that we can break through, but it has to be this kind of extraordinary moment. It has to be incredibly visceral.
Yeah.
So there's an ongoing debate in my cohort. Will the price of eggs being high result in natural political gravity that hurts the incumbent party? Or will, if the stock market crashes, does that obviously hurt the incumbent party? Or has the relationship between reality and political gravity severed so much that they can just blame? Are they going to blame, Black, trans, lesbian, atheist, Muslims for the price of eggs? And then is that going to be a successful political strategy? I don't know. We're going to see.
Yep. So we really are in a moment of huge uncertainty about where things are going. We're like only no more than less than 2 months of this administration, and it's been intense.
Yep. Well, we're going to keep doing what we're doing because that's the only thing we know how to do. We're sort of chronicling it. We're hoping maybe that something can emerge from it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I know that there are a subset of students and even a subset of faculty who do want to engage and to help. And there's discussions of, petitions of, thousands of people. I don't know if that would happen. So far, so where would business, as business school academics were asked where businesses are, and it's not a good place right now. But will anything move? I guess they'll have to hear from more stakeholders somehow that they care about before they dare to do something, say something.
I feel like, I really worry about places like Stanford and business schools because I feel like they have been licensed to just be selfish.
Yeah.
That, all of this stuff about climate change and diversity and unionization, they can just like get rid of it and just focus on making money now. And they don't have to be kind of pretend to be, adhere to these kind of principles. I hope that that's not true, but I do worry about that.
I can say that, we do have an audience. I think when you speak as an event of CASI, the Corporation Society Initiative, you will see that we do fill the rooms here. Not the biggest auditorium, but at least a sizable, good classroom with sometimes, standing rooms, when with a number of our guests that, I could say a decade ago would not fill a room, that it's only the celebrity CEOs that can get an audience here, view from the top, what's called, versus our kind of, let's see what the issues are and discuss them and not, do a celebrity executive with, sweetheart, softball questions. So
good.
So that's, so I think we you know, we hold our own here, we do our thing, and people seem to appreciate it. So I hope you'll feel that way, both in the classroom and in the.
No, I've enjoyed it, and there obviously are people of goodwill and dedicated, hardworking, ethical people. Still, it's not that everyone has kind of gone
sold out.
Sold out. Yeah, but it's a worrisome wave of that we're experiencing now, and maybe
but let's see where, you know, oftentimes people say, you know, it gets worse before it gets better or something. So I don't know what it takes to kind of shake people up and wake them up from a situation, but we can hope. Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome. Thank you.